I like to think of mind in the following way. Let's say that at the surface area, at the base level, let's say that we're sharing a multi-topping pizza. And you pull a slice from one side and I pull a slice from the other side. We both have the same crust. We're eating the same sauce and the same cheese. I have a few more pepperonis and mushrooms, and you have a few more anchovies and bell peppers. But the base is the same for all of us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's at the mind. That's at the basic horizontal right here, right now, this life. Okay?
Yeah.
We all have the same basic mind. And, okay, in the West it's a pizza, in the East it's a roti. But who cares?
Nicely put. Yeah,
Right?
with you all right.
Now, as far as humanity is concerned, if you take a pizza and you layer it on top of a pizza and another pizza and another pizza, you make a lasagna, right? Layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. And as you go deeper and deeper down, so think of a lasagna with multiple toppings on top. You get your slice of lasagna and I get my slice of lasagna. The deepest layers are the same. Everything is the same in the deepest possible layers. All of these layers are different lives that mind has had and has accumulated. And mind grows like rings on a tree. Even in your own, if you look at yourself and how your mind grows and develops, it starts, it's empty. So there's an empty dish. And then the first layer of ma, pa, pa, Tom, Rafael. Boy, girl, rich, poor, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, atheist, agnostic, who cares, right? Tick, 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 tick. All these different layers come in. As you develop, you start adding your layers and your topics, your interests. It starts to accumulate, and you begin to see that there's these different layers that all of the layers that are imprinted before puberty, you're not aware of the awareness behind it. So it's all unconscious layerings. As a matter of fact, it's calculated that by the time you're 3, 4, 5 years old, you have somewhere from 75 to 90% of all the strategies for life are already implanted unconsciously. And language evolved unconsciously. It wasn't conscious beings that created language. Understand that, right? Languages, verbal languages, animals have different types of languages, and then finally we get to written languages. We are life evolving in many different forms, and we're starting from unconsciousness. Okay, when this plant over here grows towards the sun, it is aware that the sun is coming from there, otherwise why would it grow in that direction? And the roots are aware that water is down, otherwise they wouldn't grow down, they would grow up. Right? But it's not conscious of the fact that it's doing this, it's happening unconsciously. Bacteria are unconsciously doing their thing. Animals are unconsciously, that's why they're called animals, they're animated matter. They're unconscious, there's nothing inside, there's no driving, here I am, like we see the cartoons, right, and the Lion King and all these stories, and the animals don't do that. There's no inner thought going, okay, now I'm going to catch the zebra. It's just lions catch zebras when they can, and when they don't, they go hungry. What to do? Yeah. We humans, we start accumulating layers and layers of unconscious. And we use language and language-based philosophies and ideas that were created unconsciously. This whole wisdom of the elders thing, what wisdom of the elders? They were monkeys, okay? They fell out of trees. They got concussions and then were retarded because of that. Like, this is really what's going on. Like, we hit our heads. We've evolved unconsciously at very accident. And we have accumulated thought patterns that we pass on. My father is on his third wife, fourth wife, or something like that. One of her cousins came to visit. One of my cousins is going to be in Chiang Mai. He's a nice guy. If you want to meet him, sure, send him over. He came over to dinner. He came over with his girlfriend, 2 nice, young, healthy kids from Spain. Chandra made these beautiful meals, and I don't eat chicken. Oh, really? Why not? My grandfather doesn't eat chicken, and I don't eat chicken. I've never eaten chicken. Nobody in my family eats chicken because my grandfather doesn't eat chicken, and I don't eat chicken. I was like, wow, you're an idiot. It's incredible. It's amazing. I've never met anybody so stupid in my life. I don't eat chicken because my grandfather didn't eat chicken. The mind is that. Right? Culture, it's layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. So if we start with how we learn to read and write, it's important to understand that you start with a big picture of an apple and then an A, and A is for apple, right? B is for bat, and C is for cat, and D is for dog, right? And then each time the pictures get smaller and smaller and smaller, and the letter gets bigger and bigger. And what we're doing is we're taking a child that sees life in a very simple cartoon manner, because our capacity to resolve pictures, kids like cartoons because everything looks like a cartoon. In fact, I remember being a child and remember how I saw reality as a child, and it was cartoonish. Very simple cartoon, colors, shapes, that slowly resolve as the years as I become more complex. And we associate a symbol, an abstract symbol, to a reality of an apple. And you repeat that over and over and over and over again until there is an association with a symbol like the letter A with something existential and real, like an apple that you eat and try. That's an apple. A is for apple. Right? Does that make sense? Then we start stringing these together and we start creating words. But every time you're reading a word, your mind is seeing all the letters and associating them to real things, and therefore creating the projection that the word is a reality. It's not a reality, it's an abstract symbol attached to an abstract symbol of something that's real. It's a derivative of a derivative of reality. Yeah. But we learn that unconsciously. You got that now, but you didn't get that when you were 5. Yeah. How could you? Who could have this conversation at age 5? If I say this to Nampu, she looks at me and she's like, oh. Can I play with my Lego now? Yeah, sure. Go play with the Lego. Right? But what goes over your head also goes in through your head. So the roots of your mind are literally anchored into the very words and letters and symbols that you've learned as a child. And then the sequence of that, so that creates the code. The sequence of that lines up, and then someone says, and thou shalt not, ad lib, it doesn't really matter what thou shalt not. The words are now associated to an existential reality. And children can't tell the difference between a dream and a reality. You'll notice a child will wake up crying, oh, I lost my teddy bear in my dream. Oh, it's not real. No, I lost it. Where is it? I want to find it. Oh, you're having a dream. I remember being a child and telling a story about something that happened to me. And my mother laughing at me and going, that didn't happen to you, that happened to me, and I told you that story. But the child is so enmeshed and so identified with its parents as a child, as an infant, that whatever the parents are going through or believing or the stories, you accumulate them as if they had happened to you. So layers and layers and layers and layers, you can actually go through your mind and you can dig up. And there's tools for doing this, and there's exercises for doing this. So I've done them. I can show you how to do them. Maybe not in this time frame because we don't, but you can set it up and do it. Where you can go down through the layers of projections of accumulations of what is in the content archetypally in your mind, and you will uncover past lives.
Real past lives?
Mind is, remember, you're getting a slice of lasagna. You say, when I say I'm Rafael, or you say you're Tom, you're getting a slice of lasagna of everything that you're carrying with you, including everyone that was involved in all of that. There's a collective unconscious that comes through.
Those personalities, those consciousnesses.
What happens is that when you climb a mountain,
yes,
you climb it your way. How else can you climb a mountain? There's no superhighway, so you climb the mountain your way. Right? So you climb the eastern side of the mountain.
The awakening mountain.
Yes. And you get to the top, and now you're present. And from the top, you can look down and you can see all the paths that were coming. Because from the top, you see the north face, the south face, the east face, the west face, this route, that route. They're all there.
Yeah.
They're only visible to you from the top.
Right.
From the bottom, you only see what's in front of you, right? So I can't see I'm in the south, I can't see the north face of the mountain. But once I reach the top, I can look down. If you go back and you look at now and you read the stories, the scriptures, the texts, the accounts of people who have climbed other mountains, like the path that Lao Tzu took, the path that Jesus took, the path that Bodhidharma took, the path that Osho took, the path that anybody takes, you can see it. It's self-evident. Like, obviously, yes, they came up this path. You can see it as being authentic. And if it's not, you see that there's no way I can get there this way.
Yeah.
You can see.
You'll just know.
You'll know. You just see it. Like, you know that somebody could have come up this way, and if they had come this way, they could only have said what they said. So you see the truth
From the lies.
From the projections, from the stories, from the little things. But you have to get there your way. So there's tremendous value in studying the different paths that people have taken to recognize that. So much value that Osho even wrote a book called, I think, Remarkable People or something like that. I can look it up for you. It's the awakening process of 20 different people.
Wow.
To show you how there's so many different ways and so unexpected that all you do is prepare the territory for your awakening in your way. And when it happens, you'll know. And as soon as you know, you will know all the other ways will become instantly your way. I know the path of Jesus. I am Jesus. I went through it. That's consciousness. I know the path of Buddha. I am Buddha. I went through it. I know the path of all of these different because you're there at the top. You can see the way down.
That's awesome.
But you could not have followed their path to get there. You can only get there your way.
And that's the formula you've developed.
That's the formula, is that there are enough people who have awakened over the millennia.
You can actually show someone how to create their own conditions
for their awakening. That's right. And
that's extremely powerful. I mean,
yes. Well, actually, I'm adding on to something Osho already did. Osho started that. Osho was the first one that I'm aware of that was able to clearly map it out. He's the first westernized Eastern man that became fully awakened, except for Krishnamurti. Jiddu Krishnamurti is a very interesting case because Jiddu Krishnamurti, and this ties into something you asked before, is the first. When I say awakened, I mean someone who can talk about it, right? Because there's, who knows, grandma woke up and then died the next day on her deathbed. So many people wake up on their deathbed. Not, as long as you awaken, that's all that matters. But it's nice to do it earlier. Why wait till your deathbed? J. Krishnamurti was abused as a child. Abused. And his heart never opened. He was a pure intellectual awakening. And he inspired nobody to ever awaken, has ever awakened reading Krishnamurti. And if you read it, it's dry and dead. It does not have a rich, emotional, open-hearted awakening. He missed that. He was taken from his parents, he was adopted. He was awakened, but only in his mind, not through his heart. He didn't have a heart awakening. He stayed single. He was raised by a known pedophile. And he stayed sterile and cold. And all of his words turned into philosophies for people and helped people put to sleep more than wake them up.
Do you have a body awakening as well? You got a mind awakening, you got a heart awakening. Is there a body awakening?
The body awakens when the mind and heart stop interfering.
But there is, would you say,
it's a physical body awakening. The awakening is a body awakening, but all of the intelligences, there's different levels of intelligence that have to awaken. Remember, your intuition is the sum total of all of your intelligences together.
So the doorways in your understanding, you can awaken through the mind.
Through the mind?
You can awaken through the heart.
So you can awaken through sex. That's Tantra.
Right.
You can awaken through dance and movement. That's the Sufi way.
Many ways.
There's many ways. But what I find is that to be a fully functional, empowered modern man today, I have to awaken all of the intelligences in my body, of the body. Full, multi-leveled, multi-layered, holistic awakening of all territories.
There's a sequence: mind, then heart, and then the body kind of kicks in.
You have to be able to drop the mind before you can get into the heart. You have to be able to see through the heart to awaken the body. And the being awakens, and then the intelligence of the being opens up. And you have to be able to keep your awareness as a witnessing awareness in a healthy body with emotions that are opening or closing, with a mind that is projecting or not. If you can keep... NLP has a very similar trick. It's a therapy trick. Somebody has a trauma, right? So you have the person... Imagine that you're in a movie theater and you're watching yourself on the screen, right? And the movie is in black and white, and here's the movie about the bad thing that happened to you when you were little. Now, you're going to watch the movie, but imagine that you're also in the projection room watching yourself in the movie theater, watching yourself on the screen, going through the experience. What you're doing is you're creating separations, disassociations, and disidentifications from. So you're disidentifying it because it's on a movie, and you're disassociating. So you're in the body watching the story. Right? So you disidentify yourself, and you make it black and white and sterile, so there's emotional disidentification of the trauma. Right? Does that make sense? Now you're physically there, but you disidentify your awareness from your body by watching yourself, reacting to watching yourself on a movie of something that happened. It's something like that, where I'm present and I'm watching, I'm feeling the body go through the experiences that include feeling and thinking. Navigating through life, and now there's an exchange that allows for a feeling to happen, or a situation that requires a mentating to occur. And you are witness of the entire phenomenon of a body that is navigating physically, emotionally, and psychologically through a multi-layered, multi-dimensional territory and terrain. It's a very nice place to be able to work that way. And I can go full into any one or the other. You can just be body, just eating, dancing, or just be feeling, or just be thinking, pure abstract thought, completely in a mathematical equation. Right? Does that make sense?
It does.
And being able to live in all of those areas, you want to be there. Like there's something additive to that. It's rich. It's very worthwhile doing that.
It sounds simple and complex at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's simple and complex at the same time. And what adds to the level of complexity is the lifestyle you feel most comfortable that you wish to have, that will work best for you. Because a more complex lifestyle will then require more complex mind and more complex triggers to feeling and more complex experiences to navigate and feel your way through. Because just being a guy that drives a boat, like Paul, he's a nice guy. He's a nice, good-hearted, nice guy. Yeah. We trust Nampu with him, right? So he's fine. It's not the same as, wanting to, flying business class and getting your pilot's license, and it's a different level of complexity of aliveness, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What neighborhood of the neighborhood do you want? The neighborhood of the matrix are you going to thrive? That's where the complexity comes in. There are lots of simple people that just get it. And so it's very simple. And then there's people who enjoy complex lives, so then they need more complex apps and rewiring and operating systems. So then, of course, they're creating more complex lives, they can generate the resources to pay for a more complex operating system. And I like giving people all the tools so they can do it themselves, so they don't depend on me. Because I can't put a price on this type of work. Because if I have the insights that will help you transcend your limitations so you can grow, I can't say it's worth this much. That's not holistic or ecological or beautiful of me to do, so I can't do that. But I can say, here are all the insights. You can do it yourself. Would you like my support? You want a minute of my support? You want a year of my support? Because I'll give you my coaching based on how much you need from me, as long as you're committed to doing it.
I like the way how you found a way that equilibration of value happens based on the person.
Right.
And
And I had
been rewarded abundantly with that approach. I mean, it's just
with enough that I don't ever have to charge
no
anyone.
marketing expert or business coach would ever tell you to charge like you charge it. Am I right?
I tuned in on this when I was doing my hypnotherapy course. I realized how powerful it was, and I had already so many skills. I mastered hypnosis and hypnotherapy when I was 10 years old. I discovered it by myself just by sitting quietly. My first hypnotherapy client was one of my aunts who had fallen out of a third-story window and destroyed her legs. And she'd been through 24 operations on one leg and 36 operations on the other. She was in a body cast from her neck to her ankles, crying and screaming and just... And I, without really having the language, put the labels for it, I remembered stubbing my little toe at night on a table and feeling the pain going from my toe up to my head, exploding in my head, and then learning to just push it back down into my toe. And I guided her through what would be a guided meditation of relaxation into her body, down through the pain, through the trauma, through the accident, and back out. And she fell asleep. And she had the first night's rest that she'd had in 3 years. And she woke up from that, and the image, the false echo image of pain had disappeared. It just cleared it because she experienced everything's okay. But the echo of the crash, the bang, the operations, the cuts, this, that, were driving her mad. So I already had an insight on how the mind works. And when I decided to go to a hypnotherapy course so I could get a certificate, a license to work with people, because I had people that would come to me, got insights into how their minds work, and realize that we all have these poisons. They're like hair. Everybody has it, different intensities and colors, and thicker, thinner, whatever. But everybody has these poisons of mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual, sexual, financial. I began looking at that as such. As a biologist, how would I dissect this? How would I pull this out? What if I didn't have it? Where did I pick this up from?
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
When did the transition happen from that photo you showed me to that place of calm, safety, sentience? What age did that happen? But that boy was now...
This boy's 5, and I stayed pretty scared and insecure until I was about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I released a drowning incident. I had transcended. I had let go of a drowning fear. And I remember the day that I jumped into the swimming pool at the YMCA, into the deep end and swam across. I chose not to be afraid of drowning anymore. I was 7 or 8 years old. By this point, I was already sitting quietly and finding my center. This was very empowering for me to learn how to do that. I started to learn how to trust myself. I kept improving, growing, learning more. By the time I was 40, I trusted myself to just jump on this adventure. But when I was 42, the last trauma that I overcame was my drowning incident trauma. I came back to the U.S. This was before my awakening. I was 42, before the heart opening experience. I kept my drowning, and I breathed, and I had what I call my third breath. I remembered the first breath I had in life. I remembered the second breath when I came out of the water, out of the drowning, and this is my third breath. And from that moment on, I achieved what I started calling buoyancy, which meant I no longer had any traumas that would sink me. I had no tensions that would make me go down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if you look at somebody who doesn't know how to swim, if you put them in the water, they get tense and they sink. And if they drown, they relax and they float. Drowned bodies float. Why did the person drown in the first place? You could have just floated. I mean, if they die of hypothermia, that's one thing, but you shouldn't die of drowning unless there's like massive waves or you get hit by rocks. You should just float. What's the big deal? Just don't drown if you can float, right? That got trapped. And I released all physical traumas at that moment. The last physical trauma. And it came out through this massage. Every time you're touched inappropriately, or you touch someone inappropriately, they anchor that on their skin. Every time I was hit by my parents with rage or with anger, I anchored that I'm not supposed to be here, that I don't deserve to live, that I'm not good enough. Right? Does that make sense? These are some of the traumas that come up when you look at the intelligence of the skin and the muscles. Every beating that you've received, pinch or slap that came with anger or rage. With loving awareness, you can slap someone and it's not a problem. But with blind hatred, with anger, with raw, with vengeance, with a poison that you picked up from your parents, who got it from their parents, who got it from their parents, it goes back. Your body anchors that. And it sends a message across. An emotional message. A psychosomatic message that the mind will cover up with its projections. So there's something to be said about being aware of all of these situations, experiences, touches, and then reprogramming in, short-circuiting, crossing out, canceling out the negatives, and programming in pleasure into every part of your body, so that your body can just awaken in a state of chronic wellness and feeling good. It should be in a state of low grade, feel really good. And when the body feels good, the mind lets go of its fears. And now you can shift out of reverse to neutral, put it in gear, and go. So that's a huge part of the process, is learning how to do this for yourself.